morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Dalen Che for Visionary Voices. Today we have Up to Us members. We're going to be talking about the Up to Us competition. Up to Us is a national competition focused on empowering college students in the United States to raise awareness and engage peers about discussions about fiscal and economic issues, particularly in the U.S., national debt, and financial sustainability. This was founded in 2012, and the competition is organized by nonprofit organizations such as Net Impact, and they partnered with the City Foundation and Peter G. Pearson Foundation. Today, I have the president with us, Christina Strophus. Christina, how are you doing today?
Very well, thank you.
Also, I want to congratulate you too for becoming city council. How did you feel about that?
Excited and nervous.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. So, who do you have here with you too?
I have my Vice President of Finance, Jessica Almendarez. Hello. And the Congress outreach from the Up to Us team, Calvin Glover.
Good afternoon. How y'all doing?
So, I am aware that Calvin, you are doing Congress writing. How's that going for you so far?
It's going pretty good so far. It's a little stressful with the election and stuff, so we don't get as many callbacks as we probably could be it, but it's going.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. And Jessica, I know that you're the secretary for Christina for a run in city council, and you're also supporting her as well with Up to Us. How's that been for you?
It's been stressful, but it's been a nice learning experience because I am a horrible public speaker, and all the classroom presentation has helped me a lot, being more confident and also learning at the same time, because as you talk more about the national debt during classroom presentations, you automatically learn more as well.
So I'm glad that you brought that up. I wanted to ask you, since you've been doing the presentations, what is the national debt and why is it important to us?
So the national debt is pretty much the debt that we incur as a country. Right now we're sitting at $35.9 trillion. Rises pretty quick, to be honest. At the beginning of the competition, I think we were at 35.2, and that's a big jump if you think about it. And can you repeat the second question, please?
Why is it important for us?
Oh, why is it important for us? Well, because it is our country's economy and how we're able to run and how we can help each other as the citizens and what we can do as a country.
Yes, Sam. Yes, Sam. And I know a lot of people get confused about our deficit and our debt. So what is the difference between the two?
So deficit happens when the country spends more money than they bring in revenue. And a lot of people don't even know how they bring in revenue, and that's by taxpayers. So every time we pay taxes, anywhere from going out and buying something or when we work and they take taxes, that's revenue for the U.S. And then the deficit happens when we spend more than the taxes we brought in that year, and that accumulates into debt, money that we owe.
Yes, Sam. And can you say that debt has evolved over time?
Oh, yeah. So it keeps adding on, and while we did have in the past, we had some times where there was no deficit. In general, as a country, we have deficit, and that just every year, and that just tacks on to the debt that we have as a country.
Yes, Sam. Yes, ma'am. And do you think it's really starting to become a growing concern? I know us being in that impact and Up to Us, we always find it to be a concern because we always watch this number jump up. But for every citizen here in the U.S., should this really be a concern?
Yes, and I'm going to be honest, I was one of the citizens that did not care. I did not even involve myself in knowing what the national debt is. And if it wasn't for Net Impact and Up to Us competition, I probably would still be uninformed, even though professors have mentioned it in the past during class, but it was more like a get the information in and then dump it as soon as you're done with the class. You didn't really look into it. Now that I am actually involved with Up to Us, I'm getting more passionate about it because I know how it affects all of us.
Yes, Sam. And, I'm glad that you said that you didn't care because, a lot of people think that the national debt is blown out of proportionate, and that's why it's not really said a lot in the media and coverage. It's just like, oh, it's just a number. We'll be fine. We have a deficit. We can still spend some money. But why do you think it's a problem that's being overblown and people just not giving it the attention it should be given?
I think there's a lot of reasons. it's not on the chopping block when we talk about political issues. There is more stuff that, and I will not touch what it is, but there's more things out there that are interest of American people, and rightly so. But when we talk about finances, I think it's still a taboo kind of thing, and politicians might be even a little bit too scared to talk about it because as American people, when we talk about money, we usually get a little bit more tight. Like, I don't want to
Reserved when you
reserve.
talk.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. I don't want to talk about my financial standings. And we also tend to, I know that I boost my financial standing sometimes, and it's just a hush-hush topic. And until we're more comfortable as a country talking about money, not just the national debt, but also, our personal finances and how money is spent and what we should do, I don't think it's going to be on the chopping block when it comes to politicians talking about it as much as, they do, but not more highlighted than other topics.
Yes, Sam. Thank you very much. Christine, I do know that since your campaign, you have had a chance to look inside of politics and everything. How does the Federal Reserve play a part in national debt, and how does our interest rates affect the debt levels?
So, as far as my campaign go, as far as my campaign went, I was able to realize how much money it really actually involves for every single little line item, whether it's a piece of paper, whether it's a receipt, whether it is signs or cards or business cards, like the information door hangers. All of it adds up very quickly. And there are certain rules and regulations that go into how you file what you got for your campaign, certain monetary limits, which is part of what the Federal Reserve does, is deal with the monetary policy and issues surrounding how it affects the fiscal policy, how we are going to spend our money, or how those in government are looking to spend our money. I would also have to say that I agree with what Jessica said earlier. It, I think, is also very taboo to talk about finances. It's not like families that I know of sit around the dining room table and say, okay, mom and dad, how did you invest your money? How did you grow your wealth? Or parents say to their children, I'm going to be giving you an allowance of $100 for the month. What are you going to spend? What are you going to save? And have you considered donating any of your money to a good cause? Do you really care about, just for instance, animals? Do you want to donate to like a preservation or care about the arts? Donate to a museum. What are they saving for? Are they saving to buy a car, to buy their own house, setting up a college fund for themselves? Because that's also something
You're
else
bringing a good point.
we have to look at.
Yes.
Yeah.
When we talk about the national debt and finances at the house, I think this is a good thing to bring it up how it affects us and our families. We all have credit cards here. Do you agree?
Yes.
And what a lot of people don't understand is that if we have a lot of debt as a country and have issues, interest rates are going to jump up. And I'm pretty sure you guys noticed that already.
Yes.
Yes.
What is the positive of an interest rate going up? I always mention, this is a good time to save money.
Yep.
But it's hard to save money if you
Have no money.
have no money to save. And if you do need to borrow some money, it's really bad because then you end up paying more on top that you're already getting from just the principal. So,
And another
Yeah.
option is CDs. if you don't
Yes.
have money to save.
Yes. There are lots of options for saving. I have also found out that opening my own account at the Treasury Department helped me save.
So I'm glad that y'all brought up what's going on inside of households and how it affects individually, but I want to ask about a long-term thing. Christina, mainly you. How do you feel that the national debt would affect us in the next 10, 15 years?
I see that if we do not make changes now to how we spend money, that the total debt will be such an astronomical number that I worry about future generations and how they are going to survive. You know, I know that there are programs out there that we all count on, you know, that many families depend on for their livelihood to get by from day to day, week to week. And if we don't have that help from our government, then it makes me sad to even try to imagine what it would be like. You know, I want my kids to have a good future, have that option to go to college, to buy a house, to buy a car, and not have to worry about paying off their student loan for what would literally be the rest of their life.
Which is interesting that you're saying that, because I'm pretty sure a lot of Americans also think like, what does national debt have to do that with me? Like, I can, if I work and go and get my money, why should I be worried about it? That the national government spending so much money, because I can buy my house, I can buy my car. But they obviously don't understand that, yes, they will make the money, but their money will be worth way less.
Yes, I absolutely agree.
Yeah, it's pretty much gonna be worthless. Like the dollar that's $1 now is gonna be like 50 cents in 2020, 2030, 2040. So the inflation you see on groceries is just gonna get worse because your dollar is not meant to be $1 anymore. So you can work and you can buy a house and buy a car, but you're pretty much working yourself to death to pay for it at the end of the day.
You know, I'm glad y'all bringing up these topics because now, Calvin, you are running to Congress, and I know that you mentioned it was hard to get those letters out due to the election. So I want to ask, why do you think the national debt is always a top priority in public debates or political campaigns? Because in this election, they mentioned a lot of things that are campaign, but not one time did we really hear about the national debt. Why do you think that is?
For me personally, I think it's just like they were saying before, it's just not a popular debate to have. Like, debt is not a popular thing to talk about. At least me growing up, like the three things we wasn't talking about is, or you didn't talk about outside your house, is politics, religion, and money or finances. So,
Same.
Yeah.
so finances is not going to be talked about. So when you get into politics and they get into a debate, they're going to look for stuff that people want to hear and talk about. So,
Which is, now that I'm thinking about it more, which is kind of funny too, because they did actually address the national debt. They just didn't use the words national debt, because economy and working class citizens was mentioned a lot during this campaign, but it's always done with words that don't actually revolve around like, hey, this country is actually spending a lot of money. There's a word way around, but I think that's where it comes at, that we're just not addressing the situation head on. We are finding little loopholes to get around it, to talk about it as a country. And then it could be, as you mentioned, because that's how we're just brought up.
yeah, I think it's more of this how we was raised. And even if you bring it up, people are going to think, well, I got a house, I got a car, I'm good, I'm set. But, and a lot of people, like even me, I was the same as Jessica. Like, well, I'm good. I was in the Army, so I'm pretty much set. But once you start thinking that, like, Social Security is one thing. Like, my grandma, that's her only check. So if she didn't have Social Security, she couldn't pay for anything. Like, she probably living with one of us. So once I started actually researching and doing my own research and learning, you see how it affects you just, like, day to day. And how it would affect, like, my daughter. Like, I wanted to put her in Head Start. But programs like that won't last longer. Same with Social Security.
You bring up Social Security too. Even what we get right now, let's be honest with how the dollar amount is decreasing. We might still get the same amount of Social Security like we got a year ago. I know that they get an increase as well. They're supposed to for inflation, but it's never really enough. So even though they have a small increase in Social Security, I don't think it's enough to actually support someone, and which is sad because isn't it the American dream somehow to be like, one day I'm done working and I'm gonna retire without any bills and without any stress. But if I don't have that little bit of Social Security and Medicare, because health insurance is expensive as it is,
Yes.
then we're gonna have issues. And like you mentioned, you were in the Army and I was in the Army, and I have insurance, and my husband's gonna retire, and we're gonna have insurance. But my little thought process about that sometimes is like, okay, right now veterans are good, we're taken care of. But what if we're already starting taking care less of the everyday American citizen, and when
They could
that's
be next.
yeah, we could be next, the veterans. So we should care. Everybody should care, even if they get help right now. For example, veterans, and they fought for it. There could be a chance that there's no money for us either.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's, to me, is very disheartening. Knowing things that are very important, vital to many that gave of themselves, so I could have the freedom to sit here today and talk to you about our national debt. And I also believe that, those that fight for us make us strong, but I also think that we are as strong as our weakest link, like in a chain. So I have always looked to raise those up around me, those with less, those that haven't had the fortune of growing up with a mom and a dad, or the freedoms you have here in America.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah, I was born outside of America. I came to America, so I have a fond memory of my parents instilling in me this great respect for what I now have the advantage of going to school as a girl, learning how to read and write at a young age, learning how to balance a checkbook, learning how to manage my money. But I know for a fact that there are so many people out there that don't have that. They don't have that support system. They're missing a parent figure in their life, and these are young individuals, like teens that need to have someone in our community step up, speak out, and help them.
Yeah, with community programs, and that's also a thing that we're going to have to see. A lot of community programs are actually government funded, and the money has to come from somewhere because the government's not going to stop paying its debt. Let's get this really clear. The U.S. is not going to say, like, you know what, I'm sorry that you got all these bonds, and we're supposed to pay you back, but we're not doing this. They're not going to do that because it's just bad business. And I don't want to say that a country's running like a business. I'm not using those words. But it is credit when we get debt as a country. And I'm one that, because I have people tell me, like, oh, what you going to do to get a zero balanced budget? And let's be realistic here. I don't expect the government to have a zero balanced budget. I just expect them to start.
So if I was to ask, can the national debt be paid off, what would your answer be to that?
I think we can better it, and I think we can get to a point where we lower it. But I don't think that we can have a country that has no debt. And what I mean by that is saying that we all get debt. So we all incur debt. And that's not bad. Let's not say that debt is a horrible thing to have, because it really is not. Because it builds a foundation in a country, for example. It builds a foundation with other countries if we lend money towards each other, and that builds a relationship. We can't just shut our borders and be like, we're just going to get American-made stuff, and we're only going to get all the resources from America, and we will not depend on other countries anymore. That's just not, we are a globe, we should work together, and that just comes with finances too. So I'm not going to say that we should never incur any debt. I think it's just unrealistic. It's just important to see how we are spending our money as a country right now in the last couple years and how we lacked of bringing in more income. And I know that brings the bad word taxes, another thing that Americans do not like to talk about. I'm not one to say, I'm not an economist and I'm not a tax person, and I'm also not really politically inclined. But I do know that there's things that need to be done in all areas. We have to figure out the physical policies where we spend money. We have to go and look where we get the money in and how we're going to get the money in. We have to see also that it's realistic that we're end up going to spend money. We shouldn't just be like, you know what, we're spending too much money right here, so just like cancel that program. That's not how that works. I'm just thinking that we need to figure out how to make it more realistically and how to slow down the process that we're going right now.
Yeah, there is definitely ways to put our future on a more sustainable path. You know, simply eliminating programs is not the answer, but making adjustments so we are more sustainable can be done.
That's a hard question. Like, where are we going to do these adjustments? Because everybody is passionate about something. Like, I'm a mom. I don't want adjustments to be done in education. I want to make sure my kids get the educational fund that is. I am a veteran. My husband's serving. I don't want military cuts going on either. Calvin, you've mentioned that your grandma is doing Social Security. Yeah. You don't want to get Social Security cut. No. You mentioned social work, which involves a lot of government funding too, and you don't want that funded. That's where we're going to see the issue. It's not an in answer that we can get automatically, like this is going to fix it. Because I'm honest, I don't have it. The best answer I can give to fix it is to get more educated, to have an open conversation with your friends and your family.
Yes.
To have this openness in our country to actually be like, hey, it's okay to talk about this without feeling ashamed.
Yes, I absolutely agree. More people need to talk about those hard to talk about subjects. And I do believe that politicians avoid the topic so they don't alienate any of their constituents.
Yes.
Those people that might sway one way or the other. They're on the fence and they're looking for that one thing that stands out in that person. Be like, yes, this is why you absolutely deserve my vote. So they don't want to take that chance and talk about these very hard subjects like the national debt and fiscal policy and things that we should look at adjusting to make our path more sustainable.
So, it is safe to say that people should be getting involved, because if it wasn't for up to us, we wouldn't be hearing these talks. We wouldn't be getting this advice. We'd be getting about national debt. But y'all brought up that these conversations need to be brought up. But how can they get those resources? How can they know who to go to, where to get this information from, so they can really have actual knowledge about what's going on? Because not everybody has that luxury of being and up to us and having the resources that's provided to all y'all here. And so y'all can spread that message, write to Congress, spread the word, do events, and educate young people, young and old, about what's going on with the national debt. So how can they get these resources?
So we as Up to Us, we get a lot of our information from the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. That's a nonpartisan organization that straight up just gives us facts about a lot of physical spending and what happens if we continue on this path. That's one way to get involved and know more. But it's also important to do the hard work, and the hard work is to read the fine print when the government is trying to pass new bills and laws. It's so many pages, but the spending usually is in there, and that's where you can see that this is where the Congress people are spending their money, and does this align with your beliefs? Because
I love that you said that. I'm sorry to cut you
just
off, because I had a buddy of mine, he had voted, and I asked him, I said, well, why did you vote for this particular individual? He said, oh, well, I like the tax cuts, and tell me if I'm wrong, with these tax cuts, wouldn't that hurt our national debt?
That's a really iffy situation because
There's a lot that goes into it.
there's a lot
It's
that
not
goes in.
just easily answered one
Yes.
way or the other.
And like I said, taxes is another taboo topic when we talk about American people, and you're going to have one opinion over the other opinion. If we have the crisis that we're in, obviously, the thought process generally behind tax cuts is if we cut the taxes, Americans have more money in their pockets. If they have more money in their pockets, they spend more money. The economy's flowing, and we're doing better as a country. So every time you actually buy something, you end up paying taxes again. But it's just it feeds into the economy, and the economy has actually a lot to do with also how a country is doing. And it's not a straight answer as in like tax cuts will hurt the national debt. I don't believe so. I would have to do more research on it because I also see why it is an idea, why there's tax cuts. But then you also have to know like, okay, we're going to cut the taxes on this. There's a good chance that, yes, we cut it right here, but they might have a stipulation in that policy. We're taking it from there.
Yeah. Or adding it to somewhere else.
Yes.
That's why I believe we all should be very open to what everyone says. Come into the conversation with an open mind, knowing that just because you believe something to be true and factual doesn't mean that someone else
That's
also has a solid factual point backing their opinion up. But if we listen to each other instead of just discouraging it or discounting it, then I believe we will get somewhere together.
That's why I said, like I said, you have to read the policies good enough, and you have to get nonpartisan, nonpartisan information, because if I'm running under a campaign, and this is my party, I'm not going to say something to upset my parties,
Right.
and it's
not
just
gonna-
it's just how it works. So sometimes we, even though. Well, I'm not. I know people that are loyal to their party like that's how they are. That's how they're raised. They are loyal to their party, and they will not listen to what the other party has said. So this is where you need to go to places that have nonpartisan opinions, because they will say it how it is and not skew the information to make it fit to cater to certain people.
Right.
Does that make you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's back to your question before, Dalen. With politics, they're gonna screw it to whatever they need to say. So that's how I feel like the best answer to like how to fix it is just look in the mirror, like because we had a class presentation, me and Jessica, and one of the students was like, "Oh, we just need to cut foreign spending." Like that's how to fix it, and it's just like.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's not one answer, but it's not like the only answer. And foreign spending is only like 30% of the debt. So we still have another 70%. Who does that go to? Like we have to look in the mirror. Like everybody has a percentage. So if you want to cut Social Security or you want to cut veterans or cut education, like it has to come from every different part. It's not just one answer. Raise taxes, cut taxes. Because at the end of the day, we can cut taxes or we can raise them, but if you're still spending money out of control, like it defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
So
The physical policy and where we spend the money, as in and how we spend it. That's what we have to focus on, and then we also have to focus on and letting our Congress people know, like, hey, we actually do care. I think that's one thing I always say in the classroom presentation is, why should you sign the pledge? Well, you should sign the pledge because this tells Congress directly that, hey, we actually care about this topic. And maybe you should talk about it because guess what? We are having a conversation.
Yes.
It's happening on the campus across the U.S. right now. And
Yes.
we are your future voters, or we are your new voters. And we do
Absolutely.
care where you spend your money. So,
Our money.
yeah, our
Yeah,
money.
I care where my Congress representatives, Senate representatives, be it federal or at the state level or even at the city level. I
Oh,
will
yeah.
listen to those that voted for me and make their voices heard. Like, yes, if I am responsible for spending your money, what do you want me to do with it? What is it that you need?
And I know somebody's probably going to be like, I'm not reading all those pages. You got me crazy. I'm not reading all that crazy pages. So my tip is Microsoft Excel, open up the Microsoft browser. That's what I do for my textbooks, by the way. And then just have the computer read it to you. And then clean I'm going to clean my dorm room. I have my own place, but I'm going to clean my room while I'm listening to this and get informed. And get opinions about both sides of the party. Don't just stick with the one that you feel comfortable with. If you want to really know what's going on, you need to get information from all sides.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you probably don't really care, because if you care, you're gonna read it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard to read stuff you care about. If you care about football, you're gonna sit there Sunday
Yeah.
and Saturday.
And we all should
And
care
Monday.
about this. We should care about this like
And
football.
Thursday.
We should care about this, like about our sports. Like, let's be serious. We should care about this because it's going to affect us. The tickets that for your football game cost more than they did a couple years ago, and that's part of it. Like, prices are going to go up. We're going to have a hard time buying stuff.
Yes.
So Calvin, this is a question for you, and I am thankful for all your advice that you're giving us. Folks, I hope that you're listening to this because this is very, very important stuff. But as we're all aware, I'm 19 years old, you're 28, and intergenerational debt. That's something that I've heard a lot get spoken about. Can you provide insight to that for me and for the audience listening?
So you want to know like how it goes from generation to generation, basically?
Yes, sir.
So our basic, like just our research and how we do our class presentation, we try to explain it like the baby boomers, they're still working because they kind of have to now because of the 2008, was it 2008? The recession, and then of course COVID. So now they're forced to work because they keep raising Social Security numbers up. Well, if they keep working, the generation we have now are not going to have enough jobs to get to work. So then that's why people call this generation lazy now, or like y'all generation calls them lazy, or they don't want to work, or they stay home. It just makes sense to stay home. Like a 2-bedroom apartment is almost like $2,500. Like it makes working at McDonald's, it makes sense to stay home, get a job, save up money so you can not be in debt when you get older. And I feel like this generation we have now is like the most creative generation we have, and we can't minimize them by saying they're lazy because they just think smarter than we do. They don't want to work for $8 an hour like we had to, and our generation before had to. They don't want to do that. They have the comfortability of staying home and working from home, and they have parents that, okay, until you get together, then yes, go off. But to force your kids to go out at 17, 18 and not have no clue what the world is and no money, it just puts them in a worse predicament, and then you just adding on to more problems.
Yeah, you bring up something good because my parents are very well off, and I'm in my 30s, so I have my mom's a boomer, and then my stepdad's actually Generation X. He's younger. My mom liked them younger ones, but they are very well off, and a lot had to do because they had government, like from the military into government jobs, and they jumped out of that. But if I see how they are with their finances and how well they have it, because they had the opportunity to put in money in savings and just invest in places, I sometimes get like envy of it because what is going on? I'm still, I'm just now starting to put money in savings because I was not available to do that in the past and living from paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And this is something that we need to talk about because if it continues this way, we said the earning power, we already mentioned that, there is just no possibility of moving out and going out in the world. My daughter's 18. She's still in high school, but I already told her, I was like, you know what? You can live with us until you're 60. Do I want that? Obviously, no, I don't. But not for her, not because of me. I don't want that for her. I want her to be independent and have her own place. But realistically, I don't see that my daughter being out of the house constant for a while, because yes, she's going to go to college and she's going to live with her dad. So we're divorced. So she's still living with a parent. And then when she's done with college, I want her to move in with us, because it's just realistically smarter, save money.
Sure.
So it's not lazy, it's just thinking smarter.
Thank you for your info today. And this has very been helpful. And for the last question before we go out, Christina, as a city council person, with everything going on with the national debt, and you having the knowledge that you do, what is one thing that you want to tackle with this situation?
The national debt, I want to share my knowledge with those around me. Every person that I come into contact with, I want to make sure they are aware that we need to work together, that it is up to us to tackle this national debt and put our country on a more sustainable path.
I agree. You also mentioned something yesterday when we had a conversation that when when the city council, so when we go from small government, when they are bringing, something to the paper for you where you have to spend money on, you as a city council person, you want to make sure you do enough research on this.
Absolutely.
And also make sure that the money gets spent in a smart and wise way. And I think
Yes.
that's what we have to expect from our leadership.
Yes, I will not make uneducated voting decisions. I will educate myself.
And that's what everybody has to do in this country. And on that part, vote. I know the elections are over right now, but every 2 years. It's not every 4 years. I know we focus on every 4 years, but it's every 2 years. And then every state has it a little bit different. Depends on where you live. Make sure you know your local government, your state government, how they run things,
Yes.
and make sure you go voting. Make it a habit, because guess what? We're creatures of habit. So if we start voting at a young age, we're going to continue voting, because statistics says if you don't vote at a young age, you
just
won't
never
vote.
do.
You never do. So keep voting, keep being informed, look at both sides, and even look at both sides. I was going to say look at the independent. Look at all the sides. That's what
All
I'm going to
the
say.
sides.
Look at all the sides. Look at what everybody has to say, and then find the nonpartisan information out there.
Yes, ma'am. You've all heard it from open-minded individuals, city board members, and you've also heard it from parents' perspectives, and also being a young person in this world about the national debt. So, key takeaways: vote, get aware, read, have your knowledge, because this is important, everyone. This is a debt that's going to grow higher and higher and higher, and this will hurt us in the future. You've heard it here from Visionary Voices. Stay tuned for the next one.